Namaste viewers. In this clipping, we will first see the full employment equilibrium and where there is absence of involuntary unemployment. So you've already understood that full employment is a situation, full employment is a situation where there is absence of involuntary unemployment according to J.M. Keynes. Or it's a situation where all those who are willing to and able to work are going to be gainfully employed at the current wage level. So, if full employment equilibrium is attained in a particular economy, that would mean the aggregate demand is equal to the aggregate supply at the full employment level of income and output. So look at the x-axis. Along the x-axis, the income and output are measured. Income, employment and output are measured. And along the y-axis, it is the aggregate demand, which is C plus I basically. So the two curves that you see is the AS and the AD curve. That's something already known to you. So AS is equal to AD. You know that is the equilibrium level. And if this ASAD equilibrium is going to happen corresponding to the full employment level of output, then that is what is the full employment equilibrium. So look at the x-axis once more. If OQ is going to be the full employment output, that is by employing all the resources in the economy, if the economy is able to attain this level of output OQ or the full employment output corresponding to this full employment output OQ, if there is going to be an AD equal to AS, that would become a full employment equilibrium, right? So the question is, will there always be an AD-AS equality at full employment level of output? No, not really. There are developing economies, even some of the developed economies, they have this problem of unemployment or under-exploitation of resources. So, the equilibrium, income and employment equilibrium, can also happen at a less than full employment level. You know, AD is the planned AD or the planned total expenditure in an economy. Now, in the previous slide, you saw AD equal to AS corresponding to the full employment level of output and income. Look at this slide. In this slide, AD full employment is shown, which is equal to AS at this point E corresponding to the full employment output. So over here OQ is a full employment output, and corresponding to this full employment output, if AD full employment is equal to the AS or the AD that is required to give you the full employment output, it is equal to the AS at point E. So thereby that is a full employment equilibrium. But what actually happens in the economy? Actually, the AD in the economy, it is only AD1. The dotted line that you see here is what is the actual AD in the economy. Instead of the full employment AD, if the economy is going to have an underemployment AD or a deficient AD, that is AD1 as shown in the figure, then you observe that this actual AD or AD1 is equal to AS at this particular point F. So this point F, it is called as the underemployment equilibrium in the economy, because if there is a vertical drawn to connect the x-axis, you observe that the level of output OQ1 corresponding to this AD1 and AS equality, the output OQ1 is short of the full employment level of output, which is OQ. So to the extent of Q1Q, resources are unemployed in the economy, or that is the underemployment equilibrium that you observe at point F, which is through the actual AD or the deficient AD. Why do we say this is the deficient AD? Because to give you the full employment level of output, this is the AD required, which is much higher than this one. So this actual AD is equal to the AS at F, and that results in Q1Q level of output not being available, or that is the underemployment situation in the economy. So this tells you that AD can be equal to AS in the economy at an underemployment level or a less than full employment level. Yeah. Now is the other extreme also possible? Yes, an over full employment equilibrium is also possible, right? So look at this particular diagram. So the full employment AD is equal to the AS at E. Again, income, employment and output are measured along the x-axis. The aggregate demand is measured along the y-axis. So at E, the full employment AD is equal to the AS. So that's a full employment equilibrium. But what actually the economy has is this AD, which lies above the full employment AD. Look at this dotted line again, AD1. That's the actual AD in the economy, and that is going to intersect the AS at point G. So that is called as the over full employment equilibrium, right? So the actual AD is more than the full employment AD. So that is the over full employment equilibrium, which is attained at this point G, where AD1 is equal to the AS. So this is the over full employment equilibrium. So now you have seen three equilibriums: full employment equilibrium, underemployment equilibrium, and over full employment equilibrium, right? So these are the three equilibrium possibilities, right? Okay. Now with that, the concept of equilibrium is over. We will move on to the investment multiplier. Now this investment multiplier will give you a fair idea as to how an increased investment in the economy will actually change the level of equilibrium and take you to a higher level of growth and development. You always heard of, I'm sure all of you have heard of, the capital formation process in the economy. There is higher savings that leads to higher investment, right? And this higher investment in general is supposed to bring in more production, growth, development, and so on. So that's why economies always strive to have a higher capital formation, which could set the motion for higher production, higher income, and so on, right? So this investment multiplier precisely explains to you how an additional investment that is undertaken in the economy can lead you on to a much higher income level, or the income multiplies many-fold due to change in the investment. So it's called as the investment multiplier concept. So look at that. Investment multiplier, it expresses the relation between an initial increase in the investment that increases the final income by many times. Now let's assume the government is going to take some fresh autonomous investment in the economy. So due to this fresh autonomous investment in the economy, it is not just going to create a one-time increase in the income. there is going to be a multiple times increase in the national income. That is what this investment multiplier theory tells us. So, K is normally the letter, the small k is normally the letter that indicates the investment multiplier. K can be expressed as change in the national income due to change in the investment, right? Change in the national income that is caused due to change in the investment. So let's just take an example. If autonomous investment is increased by 4,000, then that might generate an additional income of 16,000. In that case, multiplier can be K is equal to 16,000 by 4,000, because K is nothing but change in Y due to change in I. So 16,000 divided by 4,000. So K is 4. That means the income 4,000 multiplies 4 times to give you a higher income, or the change in income is 16,000. Fine? Yeah. So that is the investment multiplier concept. Now, there is a big relation between multiplier and marginal propensity to consume. The two are said to be directly related, right? So what is the logic followed here? The basic logic that is followed here is one person's expenditure becomes another person's income. Imagine if an individual is going to receive his income, and as soon as he receives his income, what will he do? He will spend, isn't it? So let's say this individual is going to spend on bread and milk and all these items. So the money that he is going to spend on bread and milk, right, his expenditure on bread and milk is going to become the income of the baker and the dairyman. Yeah. So one person's expenditure in the economy becomes another person's income, right? So again, it's the same logic with which you calculate the national income in the economy through the 3 methods, namely the income method, expenditure method and the product method. Fine. So we will use the same logic here. One person's expenditure is equal to another person's income, right? Now, once more starting with this, income is equal to C plus I. Recollect this. This is nothing but the AD. AD, right, is C plus I. Y is the income, right, or the national income. So in this equation is nothing but income is equal to expenditure. Expenditure is AD, C plus I, right? So income is equal to expenditure is what is shown in this, right? Now, introducing change to this equation, we will get delta Y is equal to delta C plus delta I. Divide the entire equation by Y. So you will get delta Y by delta Y is equal to delta C by delta Y plus delta I by delta Y. Now this one, change in Y by change in Y, will be nothing but 1. Okay. Then change in C by change in Y, that of course you know, that's MPC. And look at this, change in I by change in Y. What is that? You already understood in the previous slide that K can be expressed as the change in income due to change in the investment, right? So change in I by change in Y will be nothing but 1 by K. 1 by K. If K is equal to change in Y by change in I, then change in I by change in Y can be expressed as 1 by K, right? So 1 will be equal to MPC plus 1 by K. So you can rewrite this as K is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC. All I have done is I have retained the K, the rest of the details I have taken to the other side. So K will be equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC, right? So this is a relationship. So from the known equation, right, from the known identity that one person's expenditure is equal to another person's income, I have just moved on or derived this relationship between multiplier and MPC. Multiplier is K, right, is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC. So that's the identity I arrive at. Now, having known this, right, having known this, we will just see the table which depicts the extreme values of multiplier. Now you already know that MPC and MPS, both of them, they range between 0 and 1, right? Whether it is MPC or MPS, they range between 0 and 1, right? So this table gives you basically MPC, MPS and multiplier. Now you know MPS is nothing but 1 minus MPC. MPS can be expressed as 1 minus MPC. How do you get that? MPC plus MPS will be equal to 1. So it's from there. And multiplier, just in the previous slide you saw, can be expressed as 1 by 1 minus MPC, right? Now, the one extreme value is that MPC can be 0. So when MPC is 0, then K will be 1 by 1 minus 0. I'm simply substituting in this place, right? 1 by 1 minus 0, that will be 1. So when MPC is 0, multiplier or K will be 1. The other extreme is multiplier can be full, that is, it is 1. That is when the entire change in the income is going to be consumed, right? When the entire change in the income is going to be spent on consumption, then change in C will be equal to change in Y. In such a situation, you know MPC can be full or it can be equal to 1. So when MPC is equal to 1, then K will be 1 by 1 minus 1, and that will be 1 by 0, and that will be infinity. So you see that when MPC is full or 1, then multiplier is infinity, right? And then there are different values assigned to that: 0, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7 and so on. That is, you see that basically it's increasing. 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, basically MPC is increasing. And you observe this, if you calculate, then you will observe that the multiplier increases. Fine, so MPC increases, multiplier also increases, right? And what about MPS? What about MPS? You know, when MPC is 0, MPS will be full or 1, right? In such a case, multiplier will be, what will multiplier be, right? If multiplier can be expressed as 1 by 1 minus MPC, 1 minus MPC is nothing but MPS. So, multiplier can also be expressed as K is equal to 1 by MPS. 1 by marginal propensity to save is what is the multiplier in other words. So in such a case, when MPS is 1, multiplier will be 1 by 1. Yeah, so it will be 1, right? And the other extreme, when MPS is 0, then multiplier will be 1 by 0, because what did I tell you? K is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC, or K is equal to 1 by MPS. So when MPS is 0, then K can be written as 1 by 0, or that will be infinity, right? So as MPS is decreasing, in this table MPS is decreasing. As MPS decreases, multiplier increases. So there is a direct relationship between MPC and multiplier. There is an inverse relationship between MPS and multiplier. So that's how the propensity to consume and the propensity to save, that is the marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to save, are related to the multiplier. So why are we trying to understand this, right? So this is the slide where it's worked out. Fine, the thing that I was telling you from the table is what is shown here, right? Okay, now we will move on to the working of the multiplier. Why is it that you will have to understand the relationship between multiplier and the MPC? Answer is here. Now initially I told you investment multiplier, it shows the multiplication of investment manyfold to give you a higher income in the economy, or K is equal to change in Y due to change in I. How does it actually work? Right? So this is the working of the multiplier. There are two things that are assumed here. One is the marginal propensity to consume, and then the other one is the change in the investment. So, for the first round of the multiplier process, let's assume that the increase in the investment is 1000, right? Now that is going to immediately increase the income in the first round. So that would be the change in investment will immediately cause a change in the income, that will be 1000. But that is not all, it doesn't stop there. Multiple times the change in the income will happen. So that's what is explained in this table. Let's see how. So now change in investment, when it is going to cause a change in the income, immediately this change in the income will be used on the consumption and on the savings, right? So the change in income has to result in change in C and change in S. Fine. So that is why we have assumed this MPC. The change in C will be dependent upon the propensity to consume. So let's assume that the propensity to consume, the marginal propensity to consume is half, 0.5. So if half of this change in income is going to be spent on consumption, that would mean out of 1000, 500 is going to be used up for consumption and the rest naturally saved. So out of 1000, which is the additional income, 500 is going to be the additional consumption expenditure and the additional saving will become 500, right? Now let's get back to the logic that one person's expenditure is another person's income. So change in the consumption over here, it is nothing but the additional expenditure. So that is going to become somebody else's income. So that will become the second round of income available to yet another group. So this change in C becomes change in Y for the second round of the multiplier. And once more, out of this changed income, half of it will be spent on consumption and the other half will be spent on saving, right? So out of 500, 250 will be consumed and another 250 will be saved up. Once more, this change in consumption, which is 250, will become the third round change in the income. So that out of that 50% will be spent on consumption and other 50% will be saved up. So this process continues, fourth round, fifth round, it might go on. Till when? It will go on till this additional income is going to fizzle down to zero. You observe that this is falling, right? 1500, 250, so it's reducing, right? So as the rounds increase, the amount of changed income that is reducing. So till this becomes zero, it will go on, right? This multiplier will keep happening. And at the end, how many times this income has increased or how many times the income has multiplied? To understand that, now you will have to look into this information given. You already have MPC, which is half. So from there it will be easy for you to understand K. If MPC is half, then K will be 1 by 1 minus half. So that would be K is equal to 2. So K is 2. That is 2 times the income would have multiplied. You also know that K is equal to change in Y by change in I. Now K you calculated just now, you know it is 2. Change in I is given to you, that's 1000. So what you need to find out is the change in Y. That's the total that you require. Fine. So to find this out, you have this detail, change in I is equal to 1000. Also through MPC you calculated K is equal to 2. So if K can be expressed as change in Y by change in I, 2 is equal to change in Y by 1000. So taking 1000 the other side, change in Y will be 2 into 1000, that is 2000. So that's how you arrive at this detail. Fine. 2 into 1000 will be 2000. Let me explain again. The 2, it is from the MPC detail. K can be expressed as 1 by 1 minus MPC. So that will be 1 by 1 minus half. So that will be 1 by half, that will be 2. Fine. K also can be expressed as change in y by change in I. K is 2, change in I is 1000. So naturally, to find out change in y, you will take K into change in I is equal to change in y. So 2 into 1000, that will be 2000. Okay. Now out of this changed income, 50% will be spent here and the other 50% goes here. So obviously this is 2000, that means half of it will be change in consumption, the other half will be change in saving. That's it. So that's how you end up this particular table. You need not show the entire round till it becomes 0. It's just for you to show how the working happens.